Sri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we'll just continue our discussion on Prabhupada's purport. We will try to cover little more shlokas today, but I'll just summarize what we have discussed yesterday so that you'll remember the important part of what is the fifth chapter all about. So I was telling that the living entity has two mentality, raga and dvesha. Ragadvesha vimuktestu vishayan indriyascharam atmavasheridatma prasadam adhigacchati. So this raga desha is the mentality of living entities, and based on this raga and dvesha, living entity derives karma and jnana that we have seen yesterday. And now Narada Muni is telling, but bhakti is something which will beyond this raga and dvesha. Raga means attachment, dvesha means hatred, but it's not hatred or it's not attachment. There is something which is synthesis of both of them, and that is possible when in bhakti you get connected to the unlimited. That's why you are able to do both the things without getting. And in raga we get attached to what? We get in that raga mentality, attachment to Krishna, and dvesha will become selfless service. So that was the part. And then one important point of fifth chapter, what is the method that Vyasa Maharshi used in explaining the Vedas? This is this method is called Parishankhya Vidhi. Parishankhya Vidhi. Parishankhya Vidhi means like you are telling to do something, but in essence you don't want them to do it. I'll explain what it means. Say Prabhupada, when he told Shyam Sundar Prabhu said, I drink 4 packs of cigarette every day. Prabhupada said, drink only 1. Now drink only 1 means what? You should not drink, but at least start reducing it to 1, and so that you can give it up. Now somebody may take this, Prabhupada said Shyam Sundar Prabhu, you should drink 1 cigarette packet every day. And somebody may say, actually you should compulsory, Prabhupada said you should compulsory drink 1 cigarette pack every day. So when he's telling drink 1 cigarette packet, it is as if no, don't drink, but he's giving that instruction. This is Parisankhya Vidhi. So most of the instructions in the Vedas are like that, about meat eating or anything. But Narada Muni said your system failed, crashed. So anyway, so here then he gave actually 2 more important points from this. I'll just make. One point is telling that in 17th and 19th Tektva Sadharm Charanam Bhujamani. In that he tells that there is a possibility of fall down in bhakti also. Bhajan napakota tappate tatoidi. He fall down. 19th also. Prabhupada gives the reason because of bad association. So that means there is possibility of fall down. Fall down for whom? See, person at the level of Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, very rarely it happens. Who fall down? Who are at Anartha Nivritti only, they fall down. That means pure devotional service, everybody can practice. Because fall down is not possible for them. Fall down is told about us only. So that is the point here. And anyway, there are some more points we'll see once we go through the purports. I will just try to. So here Narada Muni is telling that how he got the association of Bhaktiventas and then how he made a progress. So he says, Ittam Sharat. So Ittam Sharat Vrishika Vrittu Hare Vrishnivato me anu Shravam Yashomalam Sankirtyamanam Munibhir Mahatmabhir Bhakti Pravartam Rajas Tamopaha. He says that thus during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had opportunity to hear these great souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the covering of modes of passion and ignorance vanquished. Purport. Transcendental loving service for the Supreme Lord is a natural inclination of every living being. The instinct is dormant in everyone, but due to the association of material modes of passion, and ignorance covers this from time immemorial. If by the grace of Lord and great souls, devotees of the Lord, a living being becomes fortunate enough to associate with the unadulterated devotees of the Lord and gets a chance to hear unadulterated glories of the Lord. Certainly, the dormant instinct of devotional service is at once awakened, and the flow of devotional service takes place like the flow of river. As the river flows to until she reaches the sea, similarly, pure devotional service flows by the association of pure devotees till it reaches the ultimate goal, namely transcendental love of God. Such a flow of devotional service cannot stop. On the contrary, it increases more and more without limitation. The flow of devotional service is so potent that any onlooker also becomes liberated from the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance. These two qualities of nature are thus removed, and the living being is liberated, being situated in his original position. The very important point here is more we are hearing the glories of Lord, more we want to hear, and more we will be attracted to hear the glories. That is the important point here. And this is going to, that is the only solution. Go on hearing and hearing, our lower modes, passion, ignorance, they automatically go away. तस्यैवं मे अनुरक्तस्य परितस्य हतैन सह श्रद्धानस्य बालस्य दान्तस्यानुचरस्य च. He says, I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had a strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind. So these are the qualities that are required for a hearer. This is what Narada Muni is giving by his own example, that what are his qualifications so that he was able to hear from the Bhaktivedantas. He was attached. There is an attachment for the sages. We should be attached to our Guru. Gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in the service. So when we render service to our spiritual master, we'll be free from our sinful activities. And had strong faith, and he was able to control his senses and follow them with body and mind. These are the necessary qualifications of a prospective candidates who can expect to be elevated to the position of a pure unadulterated devotee. Such a candidate must always seek the association of pure devotees. One should not be misled by a pseudo devotee. He himself must be plain and gentle to receive the instructions of such a pure devotee. A pure devotee is completely surrendered soul unto the personality of Godhead. He knows the personality of Godhead as a supreme proprietor and all others as his servitors. And by the association of pure devotees only, one can get rid of all sins accumulated by mundane association. A unified devotee must faithfully serve the pure devotee and should be very much obedient and strictly follow the instructions. These are the signs of a devotee who is determined to achieve success even in the existing duration of life. So the main point here is attachment, and then service. So attachment and service, and follow with body and mind means basically it is serving. So our only success will be if I render service to my spiritual master with all body and mind. Then I'll be able to overcome all my conditioning. That's why Vishnu Chakra Thakur's this Sansara Dava, that is a very important prayer for all of us. We'll be able to overcome uh, this conditioning. We will be able to eradicate all our lower modes if we follow strictly. Jnanam guhyatamam yattat sakshat bhagavatoditam anvavachom ganishyantaha kripaya dina vatsalaha. As they were living, so this is what Narada Muni did. He was able to free himself from all these sinful reactions and lower modes of passion and ignorance just within 4 months. That is Narada Muni's that is Nanamuni's introduction to Krishna consciousness. Within 4 months, he could elevate himself to such a great position. As they were living, those Bhakti Vedantas who are very kind to poor-hearted soul instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself. I'm not elaborating much. I want to cover as many purports as possible. I have to complete 5th chapter. Uh, I'll see today how much it is possible. So maybe some days I'll take more elaborately some important points. Of course, there are many important points, but we are short of time. Maybe because some points, like what Projo is telling, that some things will be repeated. So that time I will elaborate, because some of the points Prabhupada is going to make again. That time I'll elaborately explain some of the very important points which are mentioned here. But in the essence, I have told yesterday, I have explained what 5th chapter is, what is the mistake, and what Narada Muni is trying to explain here to Vyas Maharshi. Now he is telling through his personal example how it happened. So when they were living, what they did, instructed me in the most confidential subject, which is instructed with the personality of Godhead himself. A pure Vedantist or a Bhakti Vedanta follows exactly according to the instructions of the Lord himself. So they instructed what Lord told him. The personality of it, say Bhagavad Gita is as it is. Prabhupada is instructing what Krishna is instructing. That's all. The personality of Godhead, both in the Bhagavad Gita and all other scriptures, have definitely instructed men to follow the Lord only. The Lord is the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. The whole manifested creation is existing by His will. And by His will, when the whole show is finished, He will remain in His eternal abode with all His paraphernalia. Before the creation, He was there in the eternal abode, and after the annihilation, He will continue to remain. He is not therefore one of the created beings. He is transcendental. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that long before the instructions was imparted to Arjuna, and the same was instructed to the sun god, and in the course of time, the same instructions being wrongly handled and being broken was again instructed to Arjuna, because he was his perfect devotee and friend. Therefore, the instructions of the Lord can be understood by the devotee only and no one else. The impersonalists who have no idea of the transcendental form of Lord cannot understand this most confidential message of the Lord. The expression most confidential is significant here because knowledge of devotional service is far above knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Jnanam means ordinary knowledge or any branch of knowledge. This knowledge develops up to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Above this, when it is partially mixed with devotion, such knowledge develops to the knowledge of Paramatma, or the all-pervading Godhead. This is more confidential. But when such knowledge is turned into pure devotional service and the confidential part of the transcendental knowledge is attained, this is called most confident knowledge. This most confident knowledge was imparted to the Lord to Brahma, Arjuna, Uddhava, etc. So three knowledge. One is knowledge, and when it develops to impersonal Brahman, so that is knowledge. More confidential knowledge is Paramatma knowledge, which is who is all pervading, and the most confident knowledge is knowledge of Bhagavan. So we have three types of realization: Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Knowledge, more confidential, most confident. Simple to remember. येनैवाहं भगवतो वासुदेवस्य वेदसः मायानुभावं वै अविधं येन गच्छति तत्पदम्. By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, infinite, and everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him. Purport. By devotional service or by most confidential knowledge, one can understand very easily how the different energy of the Lord are working. One part of his energy is manifesting the material world, the other superior part of his energy is manifesting the spiritual world, and his intermediate energy is manifesting the living entities who are serving either the above mentioned energy. The living entities serving material energy are struggling hard for existence, and the happiness which is presented to them is illusory. But those in the spiritual energy are placed in the direct service of Lord in eternal life, complete knowledge, and perpetual bliss. The Lord desires, as He has directly said in Bhagavad Gita, that all conditioned souls rotting in the kingdom of material energy come back to Him by giving up all engagements in the material world. This is the most confidential part of knowledge. But this can be understood only by the pure devotees, and only such devotees enter the kingdom of God to see Him personally and serve Him personally. The concrete example is Narada himself, who attained the stage of eternal knowledge and eternal bliss, and the ways and means are open to all, provided one agrees to follow the footsteps of Sri Narada Muni. According to Shruti, the Supreme Lord has unlimited energies without effort by him, and these are described under three principal headings as above mentioned. Here, creation, maintain, and listen how every living entity sees according to the position the Supreme Lord. What Kanishtadhikari sees, what a Madhyamadhikari sees, what a Uttamadhikari sees. This is there are different ways they see, they look at the world. So I'll just explain. Here, of course, there is this explanation from the shloka which we have already read. That time I didn't elaborate, but just I will make this one point so that it will be helpful for us. Idam hi vishwam bhagavan nivetaro. So this shloka, that how the Lord at a uttamadhikari level, when he understand that whole world is Lord only, he says that Lord is everywhere. Vishwam purna sukhaite. He and anywhere he sees, he can see the Lord. He can see the Lord in heart of all living entities, and there is nothing different from him. He sees Bhagwan. This is Uttamadhikari. He has because he has love, and the love gives this understanding. That's why he does not see any abheda. He says, uh, uh, he says, oh, like Prabhupada was in morning walk, they took him to some place, it was not very clean. Prabhupada, they said, sorry. Prabhupada said, no, this is Vaikuntha. So Prabhupada was, when he is in Uttamadhikari, sometimes he has to come down, Madhyamadhikari, to preach. But Uttamadhikari, that's why for him, he cannot see any distinction. He sees everything. That's why he need to come to Madhyamadhikari level to preach. And what a Madhyamadhikari, when he looks at this world, he says, well, yes, in general, that I understand that everything is Lord and not Lord also, but like Lord. So he can see some distinction. That is the reason he is able to respect. He has respect and reverence to everything in this world. And this person is able to connect everything with properly in this world. He has proper respect for the people also, and he can interact with people properly. And that's why he's able to enter relationship. When Madhyamadhikari, he is able to understand, he is able to enter relationship. That's why he is able to preach also. He is able to connect to people very nicely. This is the most important thing, Madhyamadhikari. But whereas Kanishtadhikari, he want to enjoy this world and try to deny this world. So Raga and Dvesha are there for him. He is still in the tendency of Raga and Dvesha. And he understand that is bhakti is important, and but this is also there, and for him he want to get rid of this world. That is the main thing. So you want to go back to Godhead. So that is one of the main thing. For Uttamadhikari, he sees how Lord. For Kanishtadhikari, okay, uh, there is an element of fear for Kanishtadhikari. That is the main symptom you can see. Okay, I'll not go much. I can some other time elaborate on it. But this is the point. Uttamadhikari, for him everything is love. Madhyamadhikari is able to see connection of the Lord and is able to relate nicely. But Kanishtadhikari, there is a fear. That's why his relationship have problem. एतत् संसूचितं ब्रह्म स्थापत्रयचिकीर्षितं यत् ईश्वरे भगवती कर्म ब्रह्मणि भावितम्. O Brahman Vyasadev, Brahmana Vyasadev, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measures for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate some activities to the service of the personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna. Purport. Sri Narada Muni personally experiences the most feasible and practical way to open the path of salvation or get relief from all miseries of life is to hear submissively the transcendental activities of the Lord from the right and bona fide sources. This is the only remedial process. The entire material existence is full of miseries. Foolish people have manufactured out of their tiny brains many remedial measures for removing the threefold miseries pertaining to the body and mind, pertaining to the natural disturbance and relation with other living beings. The whole world is struggling very hard to exit out these miseries, but men do not know that without the sanction of Lord, no plan or no remedial measures can actually bring about desired peace and tranquility. Now, all these politicians, they are trying in every country. Some are genuinely trying to help their citizens to become happy, but don't work, unfortunately. The remedial measures to cure a patient by medical treatment is useless if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. The attempt to cross a river or the ocean by a suitable boat will fail if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. And parents attempt to protect their children cannot succeed if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. बालस्य नेह शरणौ पितरो नृसिंह नार्तस्य चागतवदन् मज्जतोन्यो तप्तस्य तत्पतिर्यहञ्जश्रेष्ठस् तावद् विभो तनुभुतां तदुपेक्षितानाम. He says, if you have upeksha, then nobody can do it. That's what Prahlad is saying. So we should know for certain that that the Lord is the ultimate sanctioning officer, and we must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of Lord for ultimate success or to get rid of the obstacles in the path of success. The Lord is all pervading, all powerful, omniscient, and omnipresent. He is the ultimate sanctioning agent of all good and bad effects. We should therefore learn to dedicate our activities onto the mercy of the Lord and accept Him either as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, or the personality of God. It does not matter what one is. One must dedicate everything in the service of the Lord. If one is learned scholar, scientist, philosopher, poet, etc., then he should employ his learning to establish the supremacy of the Lord. Try to study the energy of Lord in every sphere of life. Do not decry him and try to become like him, or take his position simply by fragmental accumulation of knowledge. If one is an administrator, statesman, warrior, politician, etc., then one should try to establish the Lord's supremacy in statements. We fight for the cause of Lord as Sri Arjuna did. In the beginning, Sri Arjuna, the great fighter, declined to fight, but when he was convinced by the Lord that the fighting was necessary, Arjuna changed his decision and fought for his cause. Similarly, if one is a businessman, so here, if a scholar, he should be engaged in the service of Lord, establishing the supremacy of Lord. That is a Brahmana job. If he is a warrior, he should fight for the cause of Lord. He should fight for the cause of Lord. And now, if he is a businessman, then what he should do? This is a Vaishya's job. The Prabhupada is giving all three categories of Brahmana should establish supreme. Kshatriya should fight for the cause of Lord, protect what Lord's cause is. If he is a businessman or industrialist and agriculturist, then one should spend his hard-earned money for the cause of Lord. There you spend the money. Think always that the money which is accumulated is the wealth of Lord. Wealth is considered to be the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and Lord is Narayana, or the husband of Lakshmi. Try to engage Lakshmi in the service of Lord Narayana and be happy. That is the way to realize the Lord in every sphere of life. The best thing is, after all, to get relief from all material activities, engage oneself completely in hearing the transcendental past steps of the Lord. But in case of absence of such opportunity, one should try to engage in service of Lord. Everything for which one has specific attraction. So in general, if you don't know whether we are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, then I say, okay, whatever you are attracted to you, it should be for the Lord. That is the way of peace and prosperity. And that is the remedial measures for all the miseries of material existence. See, if somebody want to live in this material world, he can enjoy with whatever talents he has. But he want to get out of it, then he should engage in service of the Lord. So that is the point. Like, it is not that if somebody is not interested in Lord, Lord says, okay, it's your wish. But if you want to get out, then this is the method. The word samsuchitam in this strange is also significant. One should not think for a moment that the realization of Narada was childish, imaginary only. It is not like that. It is so realized by the expert and erudite scholars that it is the real import of the word. It is the real import of word samsuchitam. आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुर्वता तदेव हि आमयन् द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम्. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? So the same the the cause of disease can be the cause of cure, some according to some Ayurvedic practices. An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparations sometimes cause disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into yogurt and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cure such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized. Just as by fire iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is pushed in the service of the Lord. So what Narman is telling, so this work is a cause of bondage, but the same work engaged in the service of the Lord, it will liberation. Work is cause of bondage, but work can engage in service of Lord, it is liberation. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way is to make the best use of bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. Everything is an emanation from the supreme spirit, and by his inconceivable power, we can convert the spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so called matter in the service of spirit. That is the way to treat our material disease and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane where there is no misery, no lamentation, no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except Supreme Brahman. The Vedic mantras that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us. Okay, anybody want any comments? Anything they want to share? Okay, we will try to complete today 5th chapter. एवं नृणां क्रिया योगा सर्वे संसृति हेतवः त एव तां विनाशाय कल्पन्ते कल्पिता परे. Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bandage became the destroyer of the tree of work. So he gave the example, now he is telling the same point. Array, this work which is cause of bondage, if you engage in service of Lord, you will be free. So purport. Fruitive work which has perpetually engaged the living being is now because Vyasdev is telling about karma. He says instead of telling them to do some karma, tell them to do the same activity in the service of Lord. Now they will be free. What Vyasdev did, what Vyasdev used is he tried that because people directly are not qualified, so he wanted a gradual elevation process. He said, okay, let them follow some rules slowly. They'll come to the platform where they will understand highest thing and then they will be elevated. So he's gradual, he's accommodating all audience. And said, but there are some people who will directly take it. So for them, you tell them. Fruitive work which is perpetually engaged the living entity is compared to a banyan tree in Bhagavad Gita, Urdhmula. For it is certainly very deeply rooted. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruits of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of soul from one body or place to another according to one's nature of work. A propensity for enjoyment may be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. By doing so, one's activity is changed into karma yoga, or the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection while engaging in the work for which he has a natural tendency. Here, the word Atma indicates the category of all fruitive work. The conclusion is that when the result of all fruitive and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cause it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendental devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of Lord. So, two benefits. One, if you work for yourself, you will bond. But if you work for the Lord, you will be free from the bondage and will go to spiritual world also. The summary is that one has to first of all seek the association of pure devotees. So Prabhupada is summarizing whole section. First, seek the association of pure devotees who not only are learned in Vedanta but also self-realized souls and unalloyed devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of God. This is first. Seek association. In that association, the notified devotee must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. So we should render service to such great devotees. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be very favorable in bestowing their mercy. So they will bestow mercy on you. Which then what happens by their mercy? Which injects the neophyte with all transcendental qualities of pure devotees. And gradually this is developed into a strong attachment to hearing the transcendental pastimes of Lord. By their mercy, we develop qualities which will help us to hear, which makes him able to catch up the constitutional position of gross uh, and settle bodies, and beyond them the knowledge of pure soul and his eternal relation with the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead. After the relation is ascertained by establishment of eternal relation, pure devotional service to the Lord begins gradually developing into perfect knowledge of the personality of God beyond the purview of impersonal Brahman and localized Parama. By such Purushottama Yoga, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporal existence and also exhibit all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is the gradual development by the association of pure devotees. So this is the conclusion of whole section, Narada Muni's story. How he by the association of Bhaktivedantas served them, got their mercy, they blessed them, he received the qualities, and then he developed taste for hearing. By such his understanding of personality of God and became perfect, and that devotional service turned into the attraction for the Lord. यदर्थ क्रियते कर्म भगवता परितोषणं ज्ञानं यत्तद् अधीनं हि भक्ति योगा समन्वितम्. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord, and what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So now the general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of directions of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma. But factually, Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana and karma. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on bhakti. This Kriya Yoga and Karma Yoga, as recommended by Srinarada or Vyasa, is specifically recommended because in the principle is to satisfy the Lord. That is karma and jnana, like Naishkarmyam of Achyuta Bhava Varjitam. Achyuta Bhava Varjitam means devoid of bhava for the Lord. Now, this Naishkaryam, that is karma, or then there is jnanam. If they are having the factor of Krishna in them, that means they are subordinate to bhakti, then it is accepted. If they are independent, not accepted. But bhakti is accepted independent. So this is a difference. Prabhupada is telling bhakti is independent of jnana and karma. But jnana and karma are dependent on bhakti. Achyuta bhavarjitam means na shobhate jnanam alam nirajjanam. The jnana is na shobhate. Naishkaram achyut bhavarjitam. Kutah punastasya abhatram ishware. So he says this is not going to work. Jnana and karma independent won't work. They should not be achyuta bhavarjitam. They should be with bhava for achyuta. But whereas bhakti, it is independent. This is the point here. So the Lord does not want so the Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga as recommended by Sri Narada to Vyasa is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. This is important. In Karma or Jnana, the Lord should be satisfied. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. By going back to God, but going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infection. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of Lord. So, knowledge is dependent on karma done on behalf of other knowledge. Being devoid of bhakti or satisfaction of Lord cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation. As already explained in connection with the stanza, Naishkarma Upichyut Bhavarjitam, same thing. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by divine grace as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So, if Bhavavarjitam, if karma and jnana are connected to Lord, there is no like that. So, just 4 shlokas, please play. We'll complete today, it will be nice. Kurvanam yatra karmani avajjachikishaya sakrit prananti guna namani krishnasyanu smaranti cha. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, constantly remembers him, his names and his qualities. 3 things: name, qualities, and Lord. An expert devotee of Lord can mold his life in such a way that while performing all kinds of duties, either for this or the next life, he can constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, qualities, etc. The order of Lord is distinctly there in the Bhagavad Gita. One should work only for the Lord in all spheres of life. In every sphere of life, the Lord should be situated as the proprietor. According to Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati, and Ganesh, the system is that in all circumstances, the representation of Vishnu must be there as Agneshwara or the controlling power of such sacrifices. It is recommended that the particular demigod be worshipped in a particular purpose, but still the presence of Vishnu is compulsory in order to make make the function proper. So Achyuta Bhavarjana should not be there. You are doing some karmic activities, but keep Lord. Don't remove the Lord from that. Then it is Achyuta Bhavarjitam, then nothing will happen in it. That is the point. Now, apart from such Vedic duties, even in ordinary dealings, for example, in our household affairs or in our business or profession, we must consider that the result of all activities must be given over to the Supreme Enjoyer, Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has declared himself to be the supreme enjoyer of everything, supreme control of every planet, and supreme friend of all beings. No one else but Lord Sri Krishna can claim to be the proprietor of everything within his creation. A pure devotee remember this constantly, and in doing so, he repeats the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, which means that he is constantly in touch with the Lord. The Lord is identical with his name, fame, etc., and therefore he is associated with his name, fame, etc. Constantly means associate, actually to associate with the Lord. So, first part is telling, okay, you are demigod worshippers, but Krishna should be there. But otherwise, even in Lord saying that he is the enjoyer, so he is the proprietor. So better be a pure devotee. Remember him constantly. No need to do any demigod worship also. So then he says the major portion of our monetary income. So now Prabhupada is giving very practical points for Grihastha. He says this is what you should do. If you don't know what to do, I am telling. So this is quite heavy, but you see what Prabhupada says. The major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, I don't know how it is possible, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna, because we are not earning, so we don't know how it is possible. So I can just read for you. Not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. The Lord definitely says that no one is most dear to him than one who is always engaged in preaching the work of Lord's name and fame all over the world. Now, only one thing I know about spending. We know one thing about the spending is what happens when you start giving. See, our heart is, many people's heart is in money. So when you give, then it pains in the heart when you give donation. Of course, even if you don't earn also, if somebody comes, I am giving, it pains here. So when it pains, then you start thinking, why it is paining? So then you become little philosophical. Then you read Bhagavad Gita, read Bhagavata, understand and chant, understand. Okay, okay, this all belongs to Lord. That's why I should give. This is only one thing I know. But how to do it and all, I don't know. But the principle is like that. We start giving. That's why Grihastha's main dharma is Atiti. You have to serve the guest. That's what Varnashrama. In Varnashrama, Grihastha's first important dharma that is given is serve the guest. Because there is always a selfish tendency. To overcome that, this is what is given. Always serve guest, give charity. Serve the guest. Like I want to cook. We want to cook sweet. So for me to make sweet, I may need half liter of milk. But if I have to bring guests, two, three guests are coming, then I may need 2 liters of milk. So then what happens? I am trying to cook, but I cannot enjoy alone. So I always have to cook for others also. In that way, my selfish tendency will be eradicated. So that is the most important thing. So it's not about 50%, but we can take it as a principle that I have to give up my selfish mentality, because always I have my own boundary. I already made a boundary along my house. The compound wall is there. Within everything is for my enjoyment. So this is what is the selfish mentality that remains. My wife, my children, my husband, my house, my these things, my relate. So then slowly, when you start Atiti, then you understand. Okay, it was there. Everything belongs to Lord. I am only a servant. I have to facilitate this. So this mentality should come basically. So here, when it comes that we have to spend in charity, means we have to give up that selfish mentality. I understand that everything belongs to Lord. I just have to serve others. That is the purpose. Why Lord is giving me money? So that I will serve others. Why Lord is giving me all these facilities? So that I will serve others. That is the main point. We always have to invite the Vaishnavas to our house and serve. The scientific discoveries of the material world can only be equally engaged in carrying out his orders. He wants the message of Bhagavad Gita to be preached among his devotees. It may not be done amongst those who have no credit of austerities, charities, education, etc. Therefore, the attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become his devotees. Lord Chaitanya has taught a very simple method in this connection. So people don't have any of these qualities now. They are not spiritual educated. There is no charity. There is no austerities. Lord Chaitanya has taught a very simple method in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. As such, 50% of what is again telling, 50% of our income must be sent for this purpose. In this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service, 2 3 times per person, telling 50%, as is taught by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell into Pendonium to the transcendental hell of Pendonium to the transcendental abode of God. So no one will disagree to partake in a function where good singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered. This is when Prabhupada is not in US, he just in India is right. Now here the point I was telling is, see, if we want to understand Bhagavatam, we should give up the selfish mentality. Because selfish mentality, if I say mine, immediately there is envy. My and his. So immediately the envy appears. And the qualification to read Bhagavatam is, we should paramo nirmatsaranam satam. We should give up our envy. If I start thinking these are mine, 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 automatically the envy appears. That is the point. And when we start giving, then we give up the selfish mentality. And then we'll be able to understand and relish Bhagavatam nicely. That is the point. And then Prabhupada is telling, if somebody is doing it and then they are spreading, then it is easy. So Lord Chaitanya gave a very simple process. What is the process? That everyone will attend such a function uh, uh, where nobody will disagree and partake a function where good singing, dancing, and refreshments are administered. Everyone will attend such a function, and everyone is sure to feel individually and transcendental presence of the Lord. This is also what happens is when everybody comes together and to oh, I'm sorry, time up. We'll just complete this purport. I didn't see the time. Maybe I'll explain nice. There are nice important points in this purport. I'll explain tomorrow. I'll just read the purport and then we'll end for today. The only condition for successful executing such a spiritual activity is that they must conduct under the guidance of pure devotees, completely free from all mundane desires, fruitive activities, and dry speculation about the nature of Lord. No one has to discover the nature of Lord. It is already spoken by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita, especially and in all other Vedic literatures generally. We have simply to accept them in toto and abide by the orders of the Lord. That will guide us to the path of perfection. One can remain in one's own position. No one has to change his position, especially in this age of variegated difficulties. The only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with the Lord. And after giving up such lofty, puffed up vanities, one must very submissively receive the order of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from the lips of bona fide devotees whose qualification is mentioned above. That will make everything successful without doubt. So thank you all very much. Sorry, I went over time. But this is a very nice. I will definitely will work. We'll just discuss on this purport. Is very nice. Hare Krishna. शिल प्रभुपाद की जय श्रीमद्